Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our market and sector analysis webcast. I'm Connie Hill. Typically, Mike Fairborn is in this spot, but I am going to be filling in for him today, and he'll probably be back next week. You know, many times we'll study the markets and sectors and see where the strength is and what's going on. Today, I want you to be able to leave with some really actionable items. And by that, I mean having some steps laid out for you to follow based on the analysis that we do here today. So I'm excited to lead you down that path. I am joined in the chat by Brent Moores. Happy that Brent is here today. He'll help field questions that maybe I can't get to. But as you have those questions, go ahead, chat them in. And I'll be keeping an eye on the chat. Brent will help me out as he can as well. Now, if you're listening to this on the recording, I know lots of you do. When you have a question, go ahead and put it in the comment section in YouTube. And I go back throughout the week and answer the questions that you might have. So let us know. Now, I hope you're following me on X. I'm Connie Hill CS. Brent is Brent Moore CS. And we'll put out some educational content throughout the week, things we notice maybe in stocks or markets, things that we find interesting that we think you might find interesting as well. We will post about it. So it's free. Just follow us and we'll be happy to have you. Let's go through our disclosures and we'll get into our agenda. The information we talk about today is for information and general educational purposes. Don't consider it a recommendation of any sort. Schwab doesn't recommend the use of solely using technical analysis as a means of research. Go ahead and pair that up with your fundamental analysis. We will be using the Paper Money software application today. It's the software you download to your computer. It's the most robust version. Investing involves risk, including loss of principal. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. Should we put a stop in, keep in mind that it will only act as a market order, which would fill up market prices. It's never going to be guaranteed to a particular price. Now, I do want to give you a heads up and a nudge to attend one of our upcoming workshops if you can. We've got a bunch laid out for the whole year, which is going to be great for you guys. There's more this year than we had last year. Last year, there was more than we had the year before. So if you can get yourself to one of these workshops, it's worth it. It's free. We're nice to you. We feed you, and you get to learn a whole lot. So come join us for one of those workshops coming up here. Let's come over here. Let's go take a look at the markets, and then we are going to do some analysis on what sectors are doing right now, what the market's doing right now. You know, the market has been off its lows that it started out with earlier today. But let's come out here. All right, to the SPX. I'd love to start with the SPX. And it looks like maybe it's up a little bit now. And what are we seeing? We keep seeing kind of this grinding action, a little bit higher, a little bit higher. But it's interesting because not necessarily are the same sectors that provided the growth, say, for the last 3 months, the same sectors that are showing the performance right now. Let's look at the NDX. I believe it is up still as well. We'll take a look. Look at that. Another new high on the NASDAQ. So as we're looking at this, you know, probably in the back of our minds, there's like, okay, market is definitely on the bullish side. Let's look at the Russell 2000. Russell hasn't been participating as strong as the other indices we just looked at. It's kind of going a little bit more in a sideways direction. And there are things you can do with sideways markets. We're probably not really going to focus on them too much today. And then the Dow Jones, how has that been holding up? Let's get that up here. It is not pressing to new highs like the SPX and the NDX are, right? We've got those 30 industrial stocks, probably household names that we've all heard of. And it's kind of been stuck in a little bit of a sideways pattern. So we have a little bit of mixture on the markets. Now, it looks like it might just barely be turning positive right now. We'll see if it really closes there. Now, Thinkorswim has some great tools to help us do some analysis. On my screen, one thing we're going to be using today is the relative strength. And I'm going to suspect that many of you are familiar with the relative strength, but there could be some of you who are not familiar with it. And so come up here to your Edit Studies beaker, click on that, And then what you're going to pull up here is just type in RELA, like your relative, and then you can see everything that has relative in it. And you're going to come down here and just choose this one that says relative strength. And I brought it over here, and by default, it's going to have the SPX in there. What that's going to do is compare what's ever in our ticker symbol up here, $DJI, to the SPX. Now we're going to leave it with the Dow here for a moment. If this line shows a general trend of going up, then whatever's in this ticker box is trending stronger than the SPX. If, however, this line is trending down, and you do want to look at it over a few days basis, not just necessarily, oh, what's it doing today? But, what's the trend been? And it looks like the Dow just hasn't been performing as well as the SPX. And so we're seeing this weakness. Now, when we're looking at sectors, we would love to see them outperforming the SPX, right? If we have our bullish hat on, if we have our bearish hat on, then we'd want just the opposite, would go looking for sectors that are weak. Now, what I want to do is bring up here a watch list. It's a public watch list, the S&P 500. If you're not familiar with that, let's go show you where it is. And it's going to be right here, S&P 500 sector indices. That's the watch list that we're looking at here. And I've put in my columns, those are the actual numbers that come in, all right? And I don't have them memorized. I know some of them, but maybe not all of them. And so it's helpful in your columns. You can customize that with the gear. Put in the description so you know what is it that we're dealing with. And then I've got one think script here. It's just a 1 month performance. So we get an idea of what sectors are doing the best in the last month. Now, you might choose to do it for a longer time frame. All right. You might be somebody that is maybe not looking for shifts of momentum that you can take advantage of, say with swing trades. You might be somebody that maybe is a little bit more holding on to positions for a little bit longer. And you might use a different measurement here. You might use 3 months or 6 months or whatever time frame it is that you're comfortable with. For what we're going to do today, we're going to use 1 month, but no, you could change that if you wanted to. So I have it sorting here by the best performing sector. Did you realize that it's the Staples Group that's been the best performing in the last month? It is, all right. That's going to be followed by communications, financials, information technology, and to some degree, healthcare. They're all 2-point-something%. So they're pretty close with each other. So what we're going to do is if you want to write it down. I've already written it down. Okay. We are going to be focusing on consumer staples. All right. As the first sector that we examine. And what we want to do is build a watch list today. Ultimately, I want us together to build a watch list and then hopefully identify some stocks that meet some people's trading rules and do some trades on them. And then you at the end would be able to know the process to, let's not just identify what's strong. Gee, it's just Staples or communication services, but what's the next step? Well, let's get us a list that we can work with of the stocks that are the better performing ones. And we're going to be using that 1 month on them as well. If you do not have that little think script, let me share it with you. I suspect that many of you do. And let me just put this in the chat box here. And most of you might know what to do with it. And if you don't, because we could have new people joining us all the time. I love it when we have that. Stick with us, even if some of it maybe is a little bit more advanced than what you're ready for. Okay, stick with us. What you're going to do is you're going to just take this code and you can just go from the front / over and grab those 7 characters. You can copy them out of the chat and post them in. If you're listening to this on the recording, I will put that script. I'll put it in my notes afterwards so you can grab it there, or you can pause it, right? The recording and get the information. And we're going to just say open shared item. We're going to plop in that formula. We're going to say preview. I've called it 1 month percent change. If you want to call it something different, call it something different. That's fine. I'm not going to import it again, but you would, so that you have this. Remember what you call it. Okay. You only need to bring this over once, but you have to remember what you call it. So, you know, something that I do is if I'm measuring a time frame, I'll put that time frame at the front of the label. Like here, the 1 month. I've also got a 3 that's a 3 month and a 6 that's a 6 month. Okay, so that I can easily find what I'm looking for, as opposed to naming it something sort of random that I might not remember. Okay, you would go ahead and hit import. We're going to hit cancel so I don't clog up my stuff. All right, my labels. All right, here. Now Bruce says, you know, what's the difference between staples and cyclical? Great question, Bruce. Staples are those things that we need all the time and that we're likely to continue to pay for. For example, food at the grocery store, health supplies. I need my Tylenol Advil combo pill, right? Those things that we just continually need to refresh. And then the cyclicals are things that we don't necessarily have to have. They're kind of like nice to haves. You know, maybe new computer equipment, maybe, although that's in information technology, but things that you might go and buy at different times, okay, like an automobile. Do you always need to have an automobile? In our lifestyle, a lot of times the answer is yes, but as far as needing it like groceries, we don't, right? And luxury items, jewelry, things of that nature. Okay, definitely the difference there. And so consumer discretionary had been performing actually fine, but we're starting to see this little shift in terms of what is performing and what's not. Oil's been down, so that oil sector we're seeing, yeah, in the last month, it hasn't done a whole lot, has it? Now, let's take the next step here. I'll leave, we'll refer to the top 4. All right, we'll include financials and information technology in there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to run a scan. And like I said, we are trying to build a watch list. Okay, so we are going to do so. We're going to go over to the scan tab. And I've got a really easy scan in here. When I say easy, there's not a lot of criteria to it currently. I just say here, let's make sure we're on the last price is at least $10. Then we have 2 studies filters out here. Remember, these study filters don't work in paper. So if you're going to recreate this scan, you've got to go over and do it on your live site and then share the watch list that you build and bring it over to your paper site to practice with it. All right. So I have here average volume. Where did that come from? Comes from the study there, come down to volume, and then just average volume right there. And then I changed the period that we're looking at. I've said, okay, over the last 40 periods, which is about 2 months, okay, we want the volume of the stock to be at least 1 million. Now, you might have a threshold much lower than that. You might say, well, I like mine 250 or 500,000. That's fine. For our purposes today, I went ahead and increased it to try to filter out some very small type stocks that maybe don't have a lot of regular trading. And then I've said we have to see at least a minimal uptrend. Okay, a minimal uptrend I have here is the price change. That comes from the price performance filter, and coming down here to select price change. And I'm looking for it in our scan here. We want it to be up at least 5% in the last 30 trading days. Okay, so when I say at least a little bit of an uptrend, that's what I mean. This is going to be about 6 weeks worth of trading. So if we're looking for performers in outperforming sectors, let's go look for the leaders of that. Now, up here, I currently have it connecting or intersecting with communication services. We're going to start at the top. We're going to come down here to industry, and we're going to start out with our staples group. Consumer staples right there. And there may be some industry groups in here that are performing better than others, but we're just going to leave it open to all consumer staples. Now, if you, in your rules, have other criteria you look for example, you like to see a certain PE ratio, or maybe you like to see a return on equity, okay? If there's other things that you personally like to look for, add them, okay? That would be adding that fundamental information in it. The purpose of this search is really just to look for performance. Who is leading these sectors that are outperforming right now? Okay. Bob says, can you scan for average volume stock price for average dollar traded? Average volume we've got. Okay. And then we put in a minimum stock price. So you could play around with that, how you might like it. Average dollars traded, I don't know that we have a measure for that. That's not something I've used before. If there is one, go ahead and put it in here. Okay, go ahead and add it to the criteria that you like to see. Okay, Bob? All right, let's go run this. I said let's look at 200 stocks. We're probably not going to get 200 here. But let's see how many stocks we have that meet this criteria in the consumer staples. Now, I have here as well, I've got that 1 month percent change, and we're going to have the results sort by that so we see which ones are the leaders. I also have 3 months here for those of you that maybe like to look for, maybe you're looking for something up in the 1 month performance as well as the 3 month performance. And there might be some people are like, well, I even want my 3 months to be higher than my 1 month. Now, for our watch list today, we're solely going to focus on the 1 month. Okay, that's the one we're going to start with to determine if it goes on our watch list or not. Okay, so we're looking, we know which sector's stronger, and we're looking at the leaders here. Now, we're just going to build a watch list, and I already started one. Okay, I called this watch list sector strength with today's date. Okay, 2/19/25. Okay, that is our watch list that we are building. Sprouts Farmers Market is this first ticker symbol. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to seriously create this with you. Okay, so we'll put in EM, Philip Morris. We'll put in PPC, KLG, CART, CCEP, which is Coca-Cola European, Coke, Walmart, Costco. Now, you could add all of these on there if you wanted to. We're just going to stick with maybe the top performers, okay? And so we are going to go down through, what did I put in there last? Costco. Oh, Kroger might be nice to have in there as well. Get in our Kroger. All right. Now, if you lowered your threshold from 1 million shares to say 500,000, you're going to have a lot more than that. And so you could be maybe a little bit more picky about what you're doing there. Okay. Just looking at Bob's question here. Bob says, I think if I'm understanding what you are looking for, the closest you can come without scripting it custom to have an average. Yeah, without doing any scripts at all, we can just do it with this volume average. It's very handy, okay, as one of those studies. Yeah, very good. So that's the first group of our watch list, okay? We're simply going to change intersect with. Now, in an ideal world, I would love to be able to put on multiple sectors here, but we can't. Okay, so we're just going to switch it to our next one. Do you remember what the next best performing sector was? I believe it was communication services. So we'll go to by industry, but really sectors. And then we're going to come down to communication services. There have been several stocks in this group that, and it's not a big group, but several stocks that have been doing some decent moving. Okay, we're going to hit our scan again, and we are going to bring in, it looks like it has about 34 stocks for us to look at. Again, put in your own criteria here if you want. There may be some people that say, I really prefer working with large cap stocks. You certainly could do that. Okay, you could add another filter in here for market cap, Or if you said, I want to maybe sort this by volume because I really only want the better volume stocks, you could do that as well. Again, we're just going to use this 1 month performance here. It's almost done calculating. It's a little bit slow. I probably should take off that 3 months and it would do it a lot quicker here for us. Okay, so what do we have here? Stock, some of these you might recognize. This one, ASTS, I can't remember what company that is, but it doesn't matter. We're just going to add it to the watch list. So we're going to pick a few of these. ASTS, there we go. Nintendo, you gamers might know that ticker symbol. We've got Spotify up there. Let's see what it's doing here. I think for the moment, I'm gonna get rid of my scratch pad and I'm gonna make this larger. Okay, so as we're building our list, you can see what's going on here. Tencent, that's going to be an international company. International companies always have more risk associated with them. So if you're somebody that says, I don't want an international company, then you might choose to not put that on your watch list. Then we've got pins. And let's see, let's go Fox A, and let's go Netflix. And let's go Fox and T. All right, T is the one that maybe, oh, let's add Roku. Okay, we'll add Roku as well. All right. And you can see over here, these have been auctioned for several days and it just barely broke that streak. Some of you might say, yeah, we've got to have Meta on there, even though maybe they pulled back a little bit. You bet. Let's see. Some of you are maybe noticing a loss of the sound. Let's see if it comes back here. If we ever lose sound, our producers are working on it. And so Brown Buffalo says, yeah, it happened yesterday as well. I'll just kind of watch. Okay, it sounds like our sound is back. Our producers have that fixed. So hopefully that was just a small moment. And the only thing you missed what I said was I was talking about how Meta had been on just this run the last month, 20 days in a row, positive price action. So that's why I said, yep, we've got to have Meta on the list. And let's put in a Trip as well. All right, have some variety of these stocks. And you can see for the last month, some of them have been on a tear. Okay, next up is the next sector. Do you remember what that was? We're going to go down to, actually, I'm going to go open this real quick, make sure it's still financials. Ooh, I told you healthcare, financials, and information technologies were just really close here. It looks like financials is holding up. So we're going to change our intersect with. We're going to go to the financials. And we're going to select all of them, all of the industry groups, and we're going to hit run the scan again. Now this one has a lot in it, 82 stocks that meet that criteria. So again, go back to your own qualifications, things that you like to see in here, put in there. Now, since this is so long, I think what I'm going to do for the moment is I'm just going to get rid of our 3 month because it kind of slows things down as far as getting the calculation here in the 1 month column. Sometimes if you have too many things trying to calculate, it takes a little bit of time. Yeah, so we're talking about here. That says I would appreciate more sector analysis. We will get there. Okay, we're going to get there. Let's go through and based on what we're seeing here on our 1 month. Whoa, now sometimes you might get an outlier like this. Okay, up. Oh, where did it go? 627% this month. Okay, you might be going, what's up with that? So let's go just look at the chart. All right, we'll bring that up here. And we'll see it's a stock that basically very low trading activity. If you look down here in the volume, you can see 3,000, 41,000, 18,500, 7, 27, 2,000, 15,000. So not really producing a lot. Something happened, some good news came out, whatever that news was, I don't know. But then the volume started ramping up. Now, if you're somebody that says, I'd like to see that going on for a little bit of time, maybe not be so crazy of a number, you might say, I'm not going to put that on my watch list. Okay. And there might be some of you that are like, oh, those are the kind of things I look for. I look for those that just recently have new volume moving in. That's pushing the price action up. Okay. For our purposes, we're not going to add it. Okay. But let's come out here with some of these that maybe look a little bit more reasonable. Okay, so we're going to put in FLG. We'll put in Affirm, FRM. Let's put in Futu and Upstart. Get down. There we go, UPST. And we have to make this down a little bit lower here. Hopefully my face won't cover it up and you'll be able to see this. What was that one? That one was XP. And let's do Lincoln, LNC. Okay, so now we have great 3 sectors here, or stocks, leading stocks from those leading sectors. Let's see, the last group here I was going to do, and I might need to do this because we've got some stocks in that group that we're going to use. So I'm going to do one more. We're going to do information technology. When I was doing my preparation work, it was the 4th sector in line, whereas now it's fighting back and forth with the healthcare sector. Okay, so let's change that. Let's rerun the scan. And the reason I'm saying we need it in here is because some of the stocks that I picked out that actually do have some entry signals for us today are in this sector. Okay, so that's why I'm like, okay, let's do it as well. And I think you get the idea of the process. And once we're finished with this list, it's a list that would continually need to be updating, right? Maybe you like to update your watch list once a week. Maybe you do it once every 2 or 3 weeks, okay? You'd have to know that this will be constantly changing depending on what sectors are leading, right? And the stocks within those sectors. So we've got, again, some other extremes here. We're going to put them in, though. These I already looked at to see how far off they might be, or how long they might have been upward trending, if it's just been for the last 13 days or whatever, if it's been longer than that. We're going to put in GDS. And we're going to put in JG. And let's put in a couple more. Let's put in Peggy here, PGY. And let's also put in SMCI. That one's really, I think it's probably having a nice day today. I think had some good news come out on it. Now I lost SMCI. Okay, again, use your own criteria, right? That might work for you. Now let's take a look here. We're going to go back to, we're going to collapse our watch list. And let's see here. Let's go ahead and open up our sectors again. And what I want to do is look at these sectors in the chart and compare them to the SPX. And maybe I should have done that before we ran our scan here to get a feel for, are they really outperforming the S&P 500? All right, so we're looking for general, higher highs and higher lows essentially on this relative strength. Is it giving it to us? Yeah, it is. Communication services. Now, it had been, right? It flattened out through this period of time, which would mean it's performing on par with what the S&P 500 is doing. So they're very similar. Had a nice little run up here and then starting to show a little bit of weakness, but we still have several stocks that are performing quite well. I suspect because Meta is such a big dog in the sector, that part of the pullback that we're seeing a little bit here from Meta might be causing a little bit of this pullback here. And that can happen when you have a sector that just has, you know, 2 or 3 really big dogs in it, and the big dogs, their market cap is much bigger than a lot of the other companies. They can influence the way that that sector goes. As far as the financials go, we're seeing a pattern overall of some higher highs, higher lows, maybe a little flattening out here, right? Our lows are staying very similar here. Highs aren't really creeping higher. So I would say maybe holding steady with what the S&P is doing. And then the healthcare sector, it's looking a little bit, maybe a little bit different story here. Even though the sector overall is performing, I mean, it's not performing as well as, say, consumer staples, but we could see here, maybe it's not as strong as some of these other groups, okay? Looking at the relative strength here. Based on that, some people might say, well, I don't know, I'll have to be kind of careful about maybe which stocks I really put from the healthcare sector, just knowing that overall, maybe it's starting to show a little bit of weakness here. That makes sense to everybody? I sure hope so. All right, let's move to the next step. I told you I wanted you to have some actionable items here today. And let's come to, not that watch list. We're going to collapse that. We're going to go back to our new watch list. And for purposes of the class, I'm going to share this with you. However, you need to know it's going to change all the time. It will need to be updated. We haven't done anything on the list that would dynamically update it, okay? We simply ran the scan, updated the watch list, created the watch list from the results of that scan, okay? Those of you that are here in the class, let me share that with you. And those of you that are listening to this on a recording again, I will put the link, the URL, I will put it in the notes at the end of the class that you can see there on YouTube. All right, I believe I called this sector strength with today's date. Remember, anytime we share a script, whether it's stocks, whether it's calculations, you always have to remember that it's not guaranteed as to accuracy or timing. All right, and so we'll go ahead, I'll share it here, and I will share it in the chat here as well. And I will also put it on this scratch pad. I'm just going to call that SS for sector strength. I'll know what that refers to. Okay, now let's take a look at some stocks, some of these stocks that may have some entry signals for us. Okay, so let's bring back our watch list. And there were some that I went through, well, I went through basically pretty much the whole list already. Okay. And maybe a few others if they didn't end up on our list. Looking for maybe something that might have an entry signal that some people might use today. When we initially run searches, don't plan on it being ready to enter that day, right? Our purpose of creating scans, of building watch lists, is so that we're watching the right kind of stocks that we're interested in. But it doesn't necessarily mean, hey, we're going to find something today, absolutely, that's going to give us an entry signal, okay? So one of our stocks that we're going to look at here has been a stock that really has been showing up. Some of you are aware of my early morning movers scan. I like to run that every day, maybe even 2 or 3 times a day to see what stocks are popping up in it. And this is a stock that keeps coming back. And it was something that, you know, back here when it wasn't doing a whole lot, it didn't come up on my search results. But very frequently, I'm seeing it come up. Now, it's changed a little bit from what it looked like earlier. And so our analysis on this would be maybe here is our flagpole, right? That pop vertical move up. And then I would say right through this period of time, looks like what we're seeing here is more of like a sideways flag. Earlier today, when I saw this, man, it looked like it had broken out of the flag. It hasn't. So we're going to keep an eye on it. We could put in, if we wanted to enter, we could put in a buy stop order that says, hey, buy these shares if the price gets to X. We could do that. We could also do, what I'm going to do is just set a little alert. And I'm going to kind of put it up Doesn't have to go all the way to 32.74, but let's maybe just get a skosh below that. Create an alert. If it gets at or above 32.07, let us know, okay? Because then maybe it is starting to break out. All right, next one. Let's see if this guy is holding steady. Let's see. GDS. GDS Holdings. One thing you're going to notice here, it says ADR. ADR lets us know that it's a foreign stock, okay? Foreign stocks do have additional risk. If we come over here to the Analyze tab, come over here to Fundamentals, we can see what this stock does. And sometimes it's helpful for you to know maybe what country it's coming from, okay? This one looks like it has some subsidiaries that operate data centers in the People's Republic of China. So this is a Chinese stock, and one thing you may have noted is that there are several Chinese stocks that are finally starting to perform. Now, if you're somebody that says, I don't want to work with a Chinese stock, you don't have to, okay? And so you want to absolutely be aware of what kind of a stock it is. So basically an IT stock that is headquartered in Shanghai. All right, so we come back here to the chart. One thing I was noticing on it, and it's kind of starting to fade here as well. If it were as strong as it had been, we were going to do a little entry on it based on the idea that it runs up, has a short pullback, runs up again, short little pullback, runs up again. I was counting this as, you know, these two as maybe the run up and a little bit of sideways motion and maybe a new breakout here. Now it's still up over 6%. We are getting towards the end of the trading day here. And so we get a better sense of, is it going to close here or not? Now, even though it's where it is right now, it's not guaranteed that it's going to close there. But we are going to put on a trade on this. Now, some people might say, well, what if I would kind of like it to pull back, right? This is a 30-day moving average. And let's kind of pull back here. We don't get any guarantees that anything would ever pull back when it's running. And so what we might try to do here in this case is would say we're interested in getting in. We recognize it is going up really steep. So if it retraces, we're going to put a tight stop on it so that if it retraces, we're out. Okay, so we risk a little bit for the opportunity to take the ride with it. And if it stops us out, that's okay. If it retraces back a little bit, then maybe we keep our eye on it and look for another entry on it, okay? Now, some of you would not be really comfortable with this entry here. One reason you might not as well is for this candlestick. Those of you that know candlestick patterns know this is a what? It's a pretty good example of a shooting star. Okay, shooting star is something you see in an uptrend after the stock's been running up. Typically, it gaps up, it runs for a while, and then it starts pulling back. Okay, and so that might negate it for some of you. We are going to be really tight on this stop here. If it goes lower than yesterday's low, then we're going to get out. So yesterday's low was 39.54. So I need my little scratch pad here. And I'm just going to write down the number 39.54. So that's where our stop is going to go. So let's go ahead. We are going to place this trade. It's a stock that also has some monthly options. For those of you that are option traders, might be interested in that. You can see, look at this trading volume today, 5.8 million shares. We love to see that kind of trading activity on a stock. And it looks like today it's, man, what is this? This is like the 6th or 7th day in a row that it's had above average volume. Okay, so kind of interesting there. Let's go ahead. We're going to buy 150 shares of this stock. So we'll put in 150. And let's create a stop loss for it. We'll just do an opposite order here. First, let's create an opposite order. And we're going to make this a stop, okay? And remember, on a stop, we're going to put a price at which it's going to get triggered, okay? The actual value is 39.54, and I said if it goes lower than it, I'm going to give it a whole nickel, Okay, so we're going to go with 39.49. Okay, not very much leeway at all. All right, we're going with the idea that it's continuing to run up, but if it doesn't, we're out. Okay, so just minimal risk here would make that a good till cancel. That if it gets to this price or lower, remember it triggers the market order. Market order just says execute immediately, and we get filled hopefully at a price close to 39.49, but it's never going to be guaranteed to be exactly that price. All right, we're going to hit confirm and send, and we'll just go ahead and send it on in. Let me take a look here at our chat. I want to check and see if we have a survey today. I hadn't noticed a survey here yet, but let me just check. Yeah, we're talking about, Chris said, saving the scan query creates a dynamic watch list, which is absolutely true when you're over here on that scan tab. Yeah, if you build the criteria that you want to save it, great. The thing I was doing here was always switching out here the sector so that we could just find those better performing stocks in those better performing sectors. Salient Joe says GDS doesn't meet your criteria. It's price way above the 30-day moving average, kind of what we were just talking about right now. You bet. There will be some people that are not comfortable with that. Completely understood. All right. If you have any other questions, let me know. There are a couple that you might just want to take a gander at from our watch list. I'm going to open up that watch list again. And what I was looking at also, what I believe is a technology stock, is a stock that today had earnings. We can see, man, it gapped clear up here. It's kind of faded a little bit, but it's still up 17%. So there might be some people that say, well, let's pulse back a little bit after that huge pop, and possibly it could be a stock that you might want to utilize in your paper trading. Okay, we can see huge volume today. Typically, when we see that kind of volume, the stock is likely to continue on. Not guaranteed, of course. And then many times the bottom of this gap will act as support. And so what we're going to do is I typically will come in here and I'll draw in where's the bottom of the gap, and I'll look and see if it uses it or not. If it kind of hangs around here above that point and then maybe gives a bounce and gives a launching point from there. All right. Well, I hope this has left you with some ideas of, once you decide, because you can quickly tell what sectors are the better performing ones, how to find the performing stocks from those sectors, build a watch list that you can actually work with. All right, you guys have had some great questions here today. Appreciate those. I appreciate Brent helping us out in our chat. You guys kept him a little bit busy. So coming up next, James Boyd's going to be here with Trading Value and Growth. It's a fabulous class, those of you that like to attend that class. And I will be in the chat, so I will see you in there. Have a great afternoon, everyone. Bye-bye.